This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another response to an Ask Prof. Wolf question from our Patreon community. Austin asks about China, and in particular about the housing situation in China, and indeed has been quite a bit of reporting about it. There are discussions, usually in the Western press, about the enormous amount of housing being built in China, the enormous amount being built on borrowed money. And therefore, the usual question, which is very common in the West also, is the risk that the borrowing and the building of housing may not generate the rents needed to pay back the loans and the interest on them that were taken out to build the housing. And Austin wants to know, is the housing market in trouble in China? And does that suggest that China's economic growth may not, as had been predicted, overtake that of the United States and of Western Europe by the end of this decade? So let me answer by explaining a little bit what the Chinese have been doing in their housing market, and it isn't new. So we can talk about it as a pretty settled pattern. The Chinese economy, which is a mixed economy, it has a sizable segment of government owned and operated industries operating alongside of now very sizable private capitalist segment of the economy, where private companies, not owned, not operated by the state, do business. These are both Chinese owned and operated private companies and foreign, including American, privately owned and operated enterprises. What China has been doing with this structure that I've just described, which has been in place for decades now, when it comes to housing, they have always managed, under the combined control of both the public sector and the private sector of the Chinese Communist Party, they have always built housing ahead of the demand. In other words, they build houses well before they have the people to move in and pay for them. Why do they do it this way? There are many reasons. One of them has to do with the centrality of housing in the minds of the Chinese people, just like housing is central in the minds of many people around the world. It is one of the basic things: food, clothing, and shelter. Housing is shelter. And the commitment of the Chinese Communist Party from the days of its revolution back in 1949 to the present is to provide a large and growing supply of modern housing to a population that hasn't had that in large numbers for a long time. So that's one of the reasons they build housing ahead. Here's another one you might not have thought of. When you are pumping money into the economy, which the Chinese have been doing, not quite on the scale that the United States and Western Europe have been doing it, but they've been doing it too, lubricating, you might say, an economy with infusions of money. Well, if you don't want the money to cause an inflation, all that money charging after goods, bidding up their price, one of the ways you avoid an inflation is having lots of goods also entering the economy at the same time that the extra money does, so that the extra money doesn't have to bid up the price of what's there. It can be used to buy more of what is being produced. China's inflation rate, I might point out today, is about 2.5%, compared to that in Europe, 9%, and in the United States, 8.5%. So there, the Chinese have come up with something in housing and elsewhere that is working very well for them. Here's a third thing to keep in mind. If they build too much, which often happens in every country, or they build too little. It can be very disruptive. If there's not enough housing, kind of the situation we have now in the US for the people who want it, the price of housing, the price of rental goes way up and hurts. We're having that now. Likewise, if the story goes the other way, if there's too much housing, the prices of it and the rents can collapse, putting the landlords in trouble. What the Chinese economy does is it knows that this can happen because it has happened everywhere so often. So it plans, it constantly monitors and adjusts. And if it cannot foresee every detail, and who can, it makes sure that the housing is built in such a way that it could be temporarily used for something else if need be, to get that balance between goods and money to be non-inflationary. Bottom line, I don't think it's going to change the trajectory of Chinese and US growth. I might point out that this year, 2022, and early next year, 2023, are predicted to be very slow growth of GDP in Europe. We're talking 1%, 1.5%, and very slow here in the United States, where we had negative rates of growth of GDP in the first 2 quarters of this year. So whatever happens in the last half of this year, it's going to be low here too, 1.5%, 2%, if that. Chinese economic growth, 3.5% to 4% this year and next. In other words, double what is in the West, more or less. They've used to do better 3 times. But this disparity quickly mounts up, and China is still very much on the road to outgrowing the United States and Western Europe. Nothing in the housing business is strong enough or big enough or troubled enough to change that basic situation. If analyses like these belong in a discussion of housing in China, as they certainly do, if the mainstream media approach is very, very one-sided, which it is, then help us open up the space, bring in different perspectives so that an honest discussion and debate can take place. We need you to partner with us. Share this video with anyone and everyone you can. It's a way of changing the whole trajectory of what's happening. And of course, if you can help financially with the costs of producing and distributing these videos, that will be enormously appreciated as well. Thank you.